So, welcome back. Now, those of you, hands up, those of you who have come to one of these before. Look at that. So we must be doing something right. Whoa, I'm loud. Let's take that down a bit further. Right. So, I usually do this bit. I say, get a bit of enthusiasm. Everyone give me a big, and then we do it twice. It's a bit boring. So, I'm going to give a good evening, and you're going to give it back because you've got some amazing guests here. Good evening, New York.
Good evening.
Oh, you didn't let me down. Thank you very much. So, you've all made the effort. I don't know if Cisco can turn this down a little bit. You all made the effort to come here. Good thing is, there's no Wi-Fi signal. So it means you can't go on your phones. Now, I don't know why I'm getting feedback. Can we get Cisco? Can you ask Joe?
Move out from under the speaker.
Yeah. Whereabouts? Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, but I've got to be here. I've got to talk to my guests. This is the thing. You have come here, so be present. Join with me, and three amazing treasurers. Then afterwards, you get to network with a lot of your peers. You also, by coming here, get CTP credits. Thank you very much. I know. I want to firstly thank as well Kramer 11. Where is Ken? Where's our host? That's Ken. You have to be really nice to Ken. He's providing the venue. Thank you. And we're getting free drinks, even from the guys at Treasury Spring. And Kyriba, ICD, Redbridge, TIS. Can you put your hands up, please? Those are the guys you really need to be nice to. Because they're providing the drinks, they're paying for the venue and everything else. So, who am I? Mike Richards. I run the Treasury recruitment company. As you can see, I've got a face for radio. That's why I do a podcast. We have a lovely team. Got Joe here today, Katie back in London, and myself over here. I've been a treasury recruiter now for the past 25 years. After doing it, about 6 years ago, I started a podcast. I thought we'd do 10 episodes. We've now done 375. Every single week, I speak to a treasurer about their treasury careers. I was just explaining earlier to Frank, soon, we're just going through the approval process with AFP. You'll be able to listen to the podcast whilst you're walking your dog, going to the gym, and earn CTP credits as well. I know. Another reason to listen to my lovely voice every week. But more than that, you actually get to listen to amazing treasurers like these three. So, this is what we're going to do this evening. We are going to go through each of our panelists they're going to give a quick run through of their backgrounds. We'll talk about the new parts of, life, if you like, and this new ways of working, a bit of hybrid and everything else, what they do. Then you're going to get a chance to ask some questions. When was the last time you got the opportunity to have the Treasurer of Victoria's Secret, Treasurer of Bristol Squibb, and Frank, and he's going to explain all about his company as well. So, Summa, over to you.
All right, we're jumping into this. Hi, everyone. I'm Summa Simmons, and my career has been shaped by one simple mindset. I always want to be a volunteer, never a hostage to my career. So I, needing to live through that means I had to say yes, to the opportunities that took me outside of my comfort zone. It means that I just had to step outside of my box. I'm an accountant by trade. And after about a decade of booking journal entries and planning my whole life around month end, including my wedding, never being able to take a day off on my birthday, I had an unplanned hallway conversation that just changed everything. So I went from managing the rear view, that's a little historical context kind of joke, y'all got it, to focusing on the future. And that shift literally happened overnight when I joined Treasury as a practitioner. Fast forward about 12 years later, today, I lead a Treasury team at Victoria's Secret & Company, where I'm responsible for managing cash, capital structure, corporate finance, risk, M&A, and everything in between given the day, and this audience can appreciate that better than anyone. And if there's one thing that being in Treasury has taught me, it's that a successful career doesn't necessarily follow a straight path. After finding myself in this field, I made a promise. I am no longer putting limits on what my career should look like, and I'm staying open to what it could look like. Because the big opportunities don't always follow a roadmap. So here we are today, super excited to be here back home in New York for about 48 hours. But more importantly, humbled to share a panel with these esteemed individuals and the Mr. Treasury himself.
That's me, by the way. Sandra.
So thank you, and I will not be as eloquent as Summa. My journey has been more so about risk-taking and opportunities. I too was an accounting major, and I'm a CPA. I've done one journal entry my entire career, and I'm quite proud of that. I started my career in AT&T in a rotational development program. And as my entire career has basically led to every company I join disappears. So a month into being at AT&T, they announced trivestiture. I chose to go to Lucent, so the unknown. I had a wonderful 7 years there. I had a couple of international assignments, so I took the risk, used my language skills, spent a year in Mexico, spent a couple of years in internal audit, supporting Latin America, and then I spent almost a couple of years in Brazil. I decided that I wanted to come back to New Jersey and be close to family. I did not have a job. So I came back with a hope and a dream of finding a job, and serendipity happened, and an FX manager opening happened to come about, and that's how my career started in Treasury, and I've been in Treasury ever since. So I've been in Treasury longer than most people. Some people in this room have probably been working or alive. I left Lucent because Lucent also went through some challenges and some troubles and a headcount cut and et cetera, et cetera. I joined a company called Simmons Corporation in their International Treasury Department, which was a broader role. I was there for around 2.5 years. Always had a keen interest in pharma. I wanted to work in an industry that made a difference in people's lives. And who hasn't had someone impacted by cancer in their family? So that just meant something to me. I had an opportunity to go either to J&J as an international treasury manager or to a no-name company, Celgene. At the time, it was a $400 million thalidomide company, which could have failed within a few months of my being there. And of course, I chose to go to the no-name company and take the gamble. And it was the best thing I've ever done in my life. It changed the trajectory of my family and my career, frankly. I was there for 15 years. Had my kids while I was there, got to grow and build a treasury organization, touched every single thing in treasury, learned what I liked and didn't like. And then we were acquired in 2019, third company down. So I have been at Bristol Myers Squibb since 2019. I did lobby for my role at Bristol Myers. I had a choice. Do I want to stay or do I just want to go and look for a different opportunity? I did lobby for a promotion. So when I went to Bristol Myers, I did go as a VP, assistant treasurer. And then I did lobby that I wanted to be treasurer one day. So my lesson to everyone here is advocate for yourself. Because if you don't speak up, people may not even know that you're interested in the role. So I did approach our CFO one day. I said I would like to be treasurer one day, whenever the time is right. I got the call in 2021. And I couldn't believe it. Literally, I thought I was getting in trouble. I thought I was getting fired, actually. Because there was an HR person in the room. I said, oh, goodness, what did I do? So I got the job. He told me, you have to fire X person and you have to build a treasury of the future. So we have been on an amazing ride over the last few years, building and changing the BMS treasury function, and I have an amazing team that I've been able to build and support me.
And I want to explore a little bit more about your teams as we go through. We'll go across to Frank. Over to you.
Sure. So I probably have the opposite way kind of I got into Treasury. So I started off in banking. I worked in 2 different banks, and then I made my way into an accounting firm doing structured finance. So working banking at an accounting firm. I was at PwC for a couple of years. Made my way over to a client, which was a health insurance company, which was probably the last place I thought I was going to work on my career trajectory, which I'll probably cover a little bit in comments later. And now I'm at Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield in New Jersey. So one thing that perhaps you can take away from today is most people know the name Blue Cross Blue Shield but don't understand how it works, so I'm going to explain it to you real quickly. Each Blue Cross Blue Shield company is an independent company, or most of them are. They share a franchise license and they have governance rights. For example, my company has the rights for the logo in New Jersey. We share a network, so once you're covered by one company, depending on your plan, you're generally covered by any Blue Cross Blue Shield company. So if you think of it like a franchise, that's effectively how it operates. Probably the most well-known is Alves. That's the publicly traded Blue Cross Blue Shield company. They cover a couple different states, including New York, but we're focused on New Jersey. In terms of my role, I started in Treasury at my last company, which is Emblem Health, an insurance company based here in New York City, and then went over to Horizon. And it's been a good opportunity for me. I've certainly learned a lot. And I think the interesting thing about our different industries, although we're both in healthcare, different sides of healthcare, Treasury has a kind of common bond no matter what industry that you're in, and there's always nuances. So I think one of the things that I think about in my career, I've become the expert on health insurance, but it's interesting to interact with other treasurers because I like learning about different industries. And so I'd always say take advantage of opportunities to hear from others and learn those different industries. You'll get a lot out of it that you can sometimes take back to your job.
And also you then lecture as well, don't you, at Hofstra? Yeah.
Yes, I'm actually a union member, so I'm in the Professors Union nationally. I've been doing it for about 10 years at Hofstra. Definitely a passion of mine. I love teaching. I love education. I love being part of the university. And quite honestly, that'll be one of my other comments. I think it keeps me fresh. There's a lot to research, a lot to study. And so the fact that I can cite like CAPM formulas and things off the top of my head, I'm proud of that.
We'll start actually with yourself then, maybe. We've got a mixed audience here, so some early practitioners, maybe studying CTP as well, and some that have been through the program. Study-wise, obviously you're seeing that, as you say, every day for the past 10 years. Why do you think that's so important, if you know?
I think the pace is just going to continue. I think a lot of times people thought years ago, oh, I go to school, maybe I'll get my MBA, and then I'm done for the rest of my life, and that wasn't the case then, and it's even less the case now. Skills you have to be relevant all the time. I challenge myself to study up on things. And the best thing with the way things are structured today is you can go online and you can read, do a podcast. Podcasts are great because you can get exercise and learn a lot at the same time. I mean, that's really important. And so the ability to learn continuously is going to create those opportunities because Sandra just spoke about earlier about advocating for yourself. No one's going to say, oh, I think you know this. You have to prove that you know it. And so the best way to do that is to take that on yourself, whether it's a certificate, a course, whatever, to say, hey, I'm motivated, I'm interested, throwing it on your resume. I think that's one great way to advocate for yourself.
Sandra, with you and your team, obviously you've got, again, a range of them, junior guys, mid-levels. What do you do to support the education and development of those guys?
Yeah, so we are very keen on developing our team and cross-training. We do a lot of benchmarking as well, so we're very involved in the NOI Group organization where we're benchmarking with all of the other mega caps, and you're going to learn something because it doesn't matter what industry you work in. Treasury is treasury, risk management is risk management. We take advantage of all of the banks have to offer. The banks certainly have a lot of great ideas, and sometimes those ideas require a lot of education for us to actually be able to explain them to our senior leadership and to implement. So it is a continuous journey. We have lunch and learns as well, so that we're teaching different areas of the department what other areas are doing, so that everyone is on par and understands how we're delivering value for the organization.
Similar
Summa?
to Sandra, we take advantage of the bank's willingness to teach, quote unquote, for free. And I personally try to stay really engaged with my peers and encourage the team to find their equivalent in retail and outside of retail. As everyone on the panel has shared, Treasury is Treasury. Your industry looks a little different, but the things that we're challenged by, we're all challenged by them. I think having access to relevant information, understanding that our role is best elevated outside of the company. Like most people in our four walls can't teach us Treasury. We're normally teaching them. And so getting outside of our building, whether it's virtually or in person. A few weeks ago, we finally took Goldman Sachs up on an offer to come in and have a teach-in, and it was fantastic, right? Like the team was like, oh my gosh, this is what their building is. I was like, don't get ahead of yourself. You see what we pay them. So it was just a really fantastic time to be outside of the cubes or your home office and being someplace else in a quasi-classroom environment. So taking advantage of all of the access to resources, whether it's podcasts, off-the-shelf decks that the banks might have, or NOI Group, just looking for bits and pieces that can help tell the story in bite-sized, cognitive, easily to digest ways. That has really helped the team. I have a team that's coming from FP&A. They have no treasury, or they had no treasury experience, and so we agreed that they would trade their institutional knowledge and I would teach them treasury and get to be the hero. And now they love it. And so what's valuable in that is just really figuring out what do they need, how do they digest things, and giving them access to it.
Cool. Sandra, if you move your microphone up a little bit, just that one. Yeah, that's it. Perfect.
Even with the mic, I speak too low.
What do you see as key to your success? I'll start with Summer and then come across. If you're like looking back at your career and thinking some of the steps you've made or missteps you've made as well, the do's and don'ts, again, I do that every week when I talk to people on the podcast. And I have pre-briefed my audience, my panelists, don't worry, these aren't tricky questions. When you look back at that,
All right,
what
so I'm
were
going
the
to start
thoughts
with
of
the
yourself?
keys
What
to my
did you look
success.
at?
So most people, their moms know them best. And if your mom were to describe you growing up 2-3 words, she'd have them tip of. My mom would describe me as chatty and nosy. She would probably still describe me that way today. And so after years of being chatty and nosy and the benefit of perspective, I realized that translates into curious and able to establish connections really easily. And so that has been everything for me in the course of my career. So whether it was being an accountant and just stepping through what that looked like, to networking and engaging and having this unplanned hallway conversation that then allowed me to get into Treasury, I find that I'm still using that. Talking to bankers, talking to our key stakeholders, helping people who really just want to understand the difference between, most people think that Treasury is some weird combination of AP and, I don't know, accounting. They want to know, do we have enough money for me to get paid next week? That's all they care about. And I'm okay with that because that means they know that I exist. And so that's a large part of not just me, but our team exists. And that's a large part of the communication and the connection. More importantly, that means that Treasury is always thought of in the context of, we have this great idea, but do we have the money to do it? And I will take that all day before they spend the money, and then we find out that they've spent it and we've got to go looking for it. So from a success perspective, I would say it's just channeling your inner kindergartner and figuring out how that shows up in your day job, and I've been able to do that. Missteps, I think the biggest misstep that I've made during the course of my career is waiting to be perfect, or waiting for somebody to tap me on the shoulder, or waiting to be able to hit every single bullet on a job description to say, okay, I'm ready. And you get one boss too many that has no idea what you do, and you figure out, I'm gonna start applying for these jobs, because apparently anybody could do it. Not anybody could do it, but I got to a place where I stopped waiting for perfection, and I finally started saying, to Sandra's point, raising your hand and saying, I'm interested in doing X at some point in life. Raising your hand for the stretch assignment, raising your hand to be the project lead for Treasury on some bigger project. And it's really just giving yourself permission to lead with progress, not permission, not perfection, sorry.
Sandra?
So in terms of my success, I think first and foremost, it's having a very strong support system and a strong team, surrounding myself with really smart individuals and sometimes people that are smarter than me. I don't know everything, and I don't have to. I have a great team and I can rely on them. The other things that are on me is my work ethic. I have an incredible work ethic, work a little too much. My desire for results and our focus and just always delivering value for the organization and really selling that and highlighting for everyone in the company what Treasury can deliver for the organization, because we are not a cash management shop. We actually do a lot of other things within Treasury, and we do have the ability to deliver value, and it is the only finance function that actually delivers P&L. In terms of missteps, I don't really focus on mistakes, because to me they're all learning opportunities, and it's more of a personal learning is balance. Because I've always worked so hard, I missed out on my kids growing up. So my learning was I should have had more balance when my kids were younger and spent more time and gone to the elementary school, to go to the class party, to go to the Halloween party. Because when they call you out on it, let me tell you, it doesn't feel good. And they remember.
No, right.
Yeah, no, I think some really great points from both of you. From my perspective, when I think about what I perhaps earlier on in my career I didn't think through is, I think a lot of people have this view on, I want to do this and I don't open myself up to the various pathways. And I said in my earlier comments, if you would have asked me if I'd work at a health insurance company, I would have told you no 20 years ago. And if I told you 2 health insurance companies, I definitely would have said no, and here I am, right? So sometimes the opportunities that life brings you, you don't expect, and if you're not open to them, you can actually cut off viable career pathways for yourself. Be open to opportunities. I think that's a misstep that I've probably been guilty of at some point in time, and I think a lot of us are, because we have our own biases and perceptions about what we think certain jobs or roles or industries are. I think the differentiator that you can think about when you go out in the market is, one of the things I've learned in my career is some people say, oh, I want the job and then I'll do. And I think, at least in corporate America, that's a really hard proposition to make, because companies, managers, particularly at the C-suite, they're not looking to reward you and then take a chance on you, right? You have to show your value to them in order to get there. And so you think, oh, I've put in my time, I should get it, whatever the case is. Maybe the case, but that's not the world works, in my opinion, and that's not been my experience. And I think the biggest advice I could give to everybody that I've benefited from my career is, do the role, demonstrate you can do it, even though you don't have the title, and sign up for more responsibility, even without any of it. And at the end of the day, it's going to give you one or two things, right? Either you work for a great company that's going to notice you and is not going to want to lose you, and now your leverage just went up because they're worried that you're very marketable, and so they better promote you or pay you, otherwise you're going to go someplace else, right? Or if it doesn't happen at your company, you've just improved your resume dramatically, and you've created better experiences that you can give to another employer. So don't say, you have to pay me to do that job responsibility, just sign up. And that's been the story of my career. People that known me, every time there's someone and they can't figure out where to put it, give it to Frank. Sure, I'll do it. I don't complain, get it done. So be a doer, don't complain, and be disciplined. I think that's beneficial.
And if you're coaching and managing a team to do that, how do you get that across to them? Because again, we've got some people here in the audience. They might be they were a treasury analyst, senior. Now they're becoming a treasury manager. They're starting to coach and mentor. What advice would you give? We'll go there and we'll come back through the panel.
I say all the time, the hardest part of my job is managing people. All the technical stuff is really easy. And as you go forward in your career and get promoted, you have to manage more people and more different personalities. And so companies pay you to manage people. They don't pay you for just your intellect. Otherwise, they could just hire a PhD to be the treasurer, right? And so putting together teams that work is difficult. I would say the most important thing to figure out is who's ever on your team, sit down and ask them, what is important to you, right? Because when you ask somebody what's important to them, you're going to get a different thing. Some people, it may be work-life balance. Another person, it might be career progression. Another person might be experiences or exposure they want to get. So figure out what makes each person on your team tick. And then being the manager, figure out how can I put this team together so that as a whole, they function. So if you can figure out what's somebody's strength, the other person's weakness, how can I blend that to make a more effective team? That will really help you out. If you just sit there and say, I want everybody to do the same thing, that's great in theory, but really good teams don't execute that way. People are trying to work with each other and partner to cover up where the weak spots are, and it makes the team better. I've been spending a lot of time in the last year or two working on my leadership, and the company's invested a lot in that, and I think I've learned a lot in the process, and quite honestly, I think the teams that I've had have been excelled because of that.
Yeah. Before I get to Sandra, I was just going to chip in as well. I did a session with a number of US treasurers just at the end of COVID. And we were talking about our Treasury salary survey. And I was talking to them. They said, oh, it's all about the money. I said, do you know what? It's not. They were like, well, no, yeah, this is your salary survey. This is it. I said, and I went back through and they said, well, what advice do we need to do to keep our team? And literally, luckily I kept the slide here, and it was like, I said, go and have this conversation with them. Say, what's your work-life balance like? Am I being a decent boss to you? Are we giving you enough variety? How are you fitting in with the team? And then ask about the salary. And they said, why? And I said, 85% of your jobs will go, your problems will go away. They're like, really? I said, yeah. These are the top reasons. 80% of staff leave because of these. So, Sandra, for yourself, how do you manage it?
So to me, culture is everything. If you have a good culture on your team, you'll get the results that you need or even exceed. So when I was building out my team, it was all about fit. It wasn't necessarily about having the treasury skills, because we can teach those, but it was about the mindset and the fit and the being open-minded to change, because change was coming and it was going to come fast. Which meant trust and psychological safety was a top priority for me. You have to get the team to really trust you and to buy in to what you're trying to do and change, because change is hard. There's a lot of fear that comes with change, because people automatically assume with change that means I may lose my job, and that's not really what change is about. Change is about improving and enhancing your work-life balance. So we focus a lot on the work-life balance and having fun at work.
Yeah. We work for a place that
Summa.
sells thongs, so have fun at work. You send a typo, instead of putting things, you put thongs, you don't get a call from HR, because you could just be talking about sales and thongs. Now, in seriousness, both my co-panelists nailed it, right? I like to believe that hiring for mindset over skill set is way more important. You can teach someone treasury. Most of us have all learned treasury hands-on the job and understanding what the work entails and how you need to think about it. We can step through that. We can do all the things, but is the person willing? Is the person willing to think outside the box? Do they ask good questions? Do they follow up with solutions? All of that, I don't believe you can always teach. So there's that piece. The other piece of it, Frank nailed it. It's about identifying what motivates your people. Some people want visibility. They want to be in every meeting with the CFO. They want to be front row. They want to be presenting. And then there's the person who's the steady Eddie. They want to have mastery in their role, and they just want to know that they're making a valuable contribution. And then there's a person that's trying to figure out, is this my thing? Like, they all seem to love it. I don't know if I'm into it. and working with them to figure out, maybe they're your projects person. Maybe they don't love the mundane. Maybe they want to be at the front of what problems the rest of the organization has and how Treasury can navigate that. So being really thoughtful about your TBs and your touch bases with them, and understanding not only what's on their to-do list, but what's on their to-do list for their career and for their lives. Like our touch bases, there's a thing that I have the team fill out. It's called a weekly status report, and it's just what's on your plate, what's a big thing that we need to keep in mind, and then what's coming down the forefront. We might spend 5 minutes on that. It's saved, I can read it whenever I want to, but I really want to know what's going on. One team member, he's expecting his first child in less than 6 weeks. Another team member is going through a really challenging time with a family member, and that's what we talk about. How are you navigating? How are you feeling? That helps me figure out where they are in their workload and how they're showing up, and it's my job to be able to identify something must be going on with Sandra because she doesn't seem like herself. It's my job to understand that and to figure out how to support them. The other thing to keep in mind is feedback, right? Giving feedback real time. I'm not waiting for an annual review to tell someone, you are killing it, or you need to step up. You are minutes away from a PIP. That's not when you say that. That does not build trust. And then there's the trust. All of these small opportunities that you get to spend with your team, whether you're in front of the CFO or it's just you all having drinks or working through, you can figure out who you're working with. They get to learn more about you. And those moments where they make a mistake, guess what? They're going to tell you, hey, Mike, I messed up. And you're going to say, of course you did. What's the problem? Let's step through it. But it's also about no surprises. Like I tell the team, I'm going to have your back no matter what, unless, of course, you go completely rogue and I can't defend it, or you don't tell me about it. Just be honest. Let's fix it. So I'd say trust, figuring out who it is that you work with, and making sure that you're giving real-time feedback.
Okay, we'll go to Frank first. We've just talked about work-life balance, hybrid. 10 years ago, that was just a car. That was it. No one knew it. Now, everyone does it. I was just with a client this morning. We were talking about, is it 5 days a week in the office? And I was like, really? Good luck. Yeah. 5 days a week, we're out. It was like, and actually, it's 3 to 4. And I was like, okay, if it's 3, that's fine. If it's 4 and it has to be, yes, we understand that. But what's the balance with you guys? We'll come back round through the panel with the balance of work with you guys.
Yeah, so our industry has become much more remote and hybrid recently, so it's really hard to recruit people throughout the company if you don't have some type of remote hybrid availability. My team's in about 2 days a week. I'm in 3 days. I think it's important, like as a leader, that you don't want to be any less than your team, right? So I purposely come in 1 day more than my team. Some days I'm in 4 days a week. But I think we've evolved to a point in time where there's really unnecessary, especially if you're going to be on Zoom meetings all day and you're not interacting with people face to face. 5 days in the office just seems like complete overkill. But I do think there is value to coming together once or twice a week as a team. I saw a difference when we came back in the office. Culture improved. People start working together a little bit better. Some people may be more productive in the office or less. That depends on the individual. But culture is a lot easier to impact when everybody comes in the office at least once or twice a week.
Sandra?
Yeah, so he nailed it. So we have a hybrid schedule. We're mandated in 50% of the time every 2 weeks. So I'm generally in the office 2, 3, sometimes 4 days a week. It really just depends on what transactions we have and what meetings we have. And some meetings you just want to be in person. It's a privilege, and we certainly hope that it doesn't get taken away from us, because it's really just an amazing benefit to be able to have the flexibility to work from home a day or 2 a week. But it's amazing for culture, and I do believe that our culture would not be as strong if we were remote, because it's really hard to build culture and team building and really understand what people are thinking by body language on teams. So it's working out beautifully for us, and my team is very compliant. We follow the rules. But there are teams in the company that don't, and our badging is tracked. And it comes up often enough that if people aren't going to follow the rules, the benefit is going to be lost. And by the way, it might impact your bonus next year. These are benefits that we should thoroughly enjoy. They are benefits that can be taken away, and we enjoy being in the office and spending time together because sometimes that's when ideas are generated. I'm not talking to anyone in my home office. I sit next to my assistant treasurer's in the audience for moral support. I sit next to him. I literally speak to him more than I speak to my husband because we're in the office a lot. But we might be talking about God knows what, and an idea just pops up, and it can generate EPS. If I'm at home, I'm not doing that. I'm not chit-chatting with him, and it's a great thing, and people really should
We
embrace.
probably average maybe once a week, twice a week if there's a lot going on. And similar to everyone else, it's really being thoughtful about the time that you're spending in the office. Is it effective? For me, I try to make sure that I'm having my touch bases on those days so that we can connect in person, have team meetings in person, maybe break bread, shoot the breeze a bit, take a walk. Everything else we can do on Teams, we can figure it out at home, making sure that when we are together, we are solving for things that seem better together, like brainstorming. If we were trying to solve for repatriating some cash, and he was just like, hey, why don't you guys brainstorm about this? And I don't think he thought we were going to do it. And we got together and we had some ideas, and he came back in and we gave him a really fantastic list. And he was like, wow, you all came up so much more than I anticipated you. I thought you were going to come with 3 ideas off on the side. But all of that was born out of us sitting in the atrium and just thinking and speaking out loud amongst each other. And so that said, as Treasury practitioners, we have a lot of boring transactions and contracts to read. And so that time alone where you're able to do deep work, really valuable. In an open environment, open concept, you've got 5 Teams calls going on in one ear and somebody talking about what happened to their dog last night in the other. And so having that space to be able to think, mark up a document, make your notes about what you want to talk to your internal and external counsel, really valuable. So I don't think of hybrid as it is a perk, but I think that we've demonstrated that it's normal. And I do think that, to your point, let's hope that our colleagues don't abuse it so we don't wind back up 5 days in. But I also think that we've opened up this access to talent. So if you go back to 5 days, now you're looking at being subject to your geography, and some people don't want to move, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's the best of both worlds, and we're trying to navigate that.
So as you can see up on the panels, we are going to move to Q&A soon, not quite yet, but do have some good questions because you've got this incredible opportunity. When did you get a chance to quiz 3 great treasurers about their treasury careers and everything else? You don't. Then also the panel do have some good takeaways as well, so we're going to leave some time for that. But as I do each week on the podcast, we talk through people's careers, then I talk about what do you see as the next step for Treasury? Obviously, we've got to say AI. Everyone's saying, that's it. Great. The robots are taking over the planet. That's it. Let's go home. But apparently, everyone's still got jobs in here. Now, and everyone says, actually, it's the people that can use AI. They're going to be the future and everything else. I'll start with Sandra, then go across to Frank, and then come back to Summa. Sandra, what are you seeing? Is it AI? Is that the key thing for you, or are there other areas, do you think, or any key ones?
I hate to say it, but yes, AI seems to be the flavor of the year, and we are very focused on AI, although I'm not sure that anyone in Treasury has actually found any real use cases for AI. We keep talking about it, but I'm sure we will all, as a collective community, figure out how to implement AI in our work processes and our cash flow forecasting. And it's really going to be about data analytics and just being more strategic rather than spending so much time doing manual work. You're going to be able to automate all of that and It's about adding value and coming up with ideas and working with your banking partners for those value-added opportunities that you can go to the C-suite and show your value.
Yeah, I think obviously AI, everybody could always talk about that, but I'll do something a little different. So it seems to me like we're moving into a world of more volatility, and geopolitics is going to play more of a challenge for companies. And there's really no part of the organization that's better prepared to address that than Treasury. And so I think where there's going to be probably an evolution where we're going to see more differentiation in terms of Treasury departments is what organizations can utilize tools to help CFOs address challenges and volatility that will arise. Because I think it's going to be increasingly important for shareholders in terms of what does that mean for earnings, how much exposure do you have to various risk factors. Having come from banking, having a risk background, I think people are really worried about how you're hedging, how you're thinking about that. Treasury, in my mind, is a profit center. I think you said it best, right? And so those organizations that can demonstrate themselves as a reliable profit center are really going to shine, and those individuals that can contribute to the profit center.
So since
will be
the pandemic, I think that's where Treasury's level up happened, right? Like you had teams that didn't know that we existed.
So don't say didn't.
That again,
Come on.
we're
Give
worried,
it
do
more.
we have enough cash for payroll? Yes, we have enough cash for payroll. It started there, and since then, to Frank's point, it's become a team that's demonstrating the value to the organization. CFOs are now coming to Treasury with questions around, hey, we're thinking about X, how can you make that happen? And a large part of this, I think, is only going to continue and become way more valuable, much bigger decisioning. Maybe it's more than a 5-year long-range plan. It might be stepping out into a 10. But the real idea behind this is how can you all manage our risk in such a way that we can go out and have some really great ideas that will generate cash, but you're managing the volatility of the market safely for us so that we can do what we do best, which is run the business. I don't know that we can get any more next level than that. I think that's what our job entails today. And as the geopolitical environment continues to shock us and surprise us, as well as the government, it's our jobs to be thinking ahead and sharing with our leadership team, we got you covered, mostly. Go off, come up with your great ideas, and we're going to show you just how feasible that is and or demonstrate where the guardrails are that we need to consider.
Okay, I've talked to a number of treasurers about how do they show the difference they're making. And one of my first ever podcasts, actually, with Nick Taylor from Schroders, he talked about his chairman saying, I want you to come to me with a black book. And that is, you look at what difference have you made this week. Each week, just have a coffee with yourself. Every month, have a coffee with me. But he said, I want to see what difference you've made. And it was all about those little gains. And at the end of each year, he was able to come back, and the book got thicker and thicker every year.
A couple
Personal
of different
strategies for you
ways.
guys
So
to
we
get
created something,
Treasury out there
called
amongst the
Finance
company and stuff. We'll go
Development
from you,
Day.
Summer, and
So
then
the 4
across.
days a month that all of finance
How do you do it?
is
Obviously,
in the office at the same time. There's a small committee of us that have come up with curriculum, and we figure out what does the broader audience need to understand and learn, and whether it's improving your presentation skills to technical components. We hosted a Treasury 101 session, and we essentially just walked the team through what a ZBA is, but more importantly, what is an ABL? What does a syndicate of banks mean? Why are these relationships so important? Why is it imperative that as you're thinking about business decisions and RFPs, you talk to us, because we might have bankers that offer that service. So really walking them through our capital structure, helping them understand what we mean when we say we're paying down the loan, like literally Treasury 101. It was incredible. One thing that came out of it is everybody wants to join our team, so winning. More importantly, people felt more inspired to ask us questions because they felt like they should have known, but they didn't. And we broke down this wall. And Treasury, as you all in this room can appreciate, is incredibly interesting. So there's that Treasury 101 concept. The other way that I feel like we're sharing about treasuries, I share a lot of thoughts on LinkedIn, whether it's thought leadership or it's about things that's that I've learned about Treasury. I'm sharing it there as well, because I don't think that all that knowledge should be just limited to the people who are fortunate enough to work with me. Everybody should hear my great ideas. But in all seriousness, taking advantage of peer networks. So we have a group in Columbus, Ohio that I don't love the name. I must have missed the vote, but we call it the Columbus Treasury Coalition. It sounds like a labor union. And it's just a male group of assistant treasurers and treasurers, and any questions that we have, we keep it so that there aren't banks allowed in said male group. And we talk about everything under the sun, whether someone's thinking about an RFP, what experiences that they have, good, bad, or indifferent, if they're trying to bank in a different country. So that peer access comes in really handy, and I think it just speaks to the value of network and community.
Sandra.
So I love this Treasury 101 idea, and I'm going to borrow it or steal it or et cetera. And this is where the benchmarking comes in, because inevitably wherever I go, I learn something. So this is great. So in our organization, I guess maybe we're very lucky to be very embedded within finance, and that we have to partner with every organization. So we're heavily involved. We're a big M&A shop with all of the BD kind of planning and how you're going to basically pay, the rating agency impacts, and all of the planning around the M&A. So we're deeply embedded with our BD finance and BD business development organization. We've launched the working capital optimization program, which is actually one of the most difficult things I've done in my career. It has been the most challenging thing to get done here. But we will prevail, because there is a lot to be captured, and we need to win the hearts and minds of everyone, and everyone really needs to understand it. When you're out there talking about the things that we need to do for the organization from a cash flow perspective, people will know who Treasury is. And it's baby steps. Some people don't want to talk to you straight away, but it's okay, because some of us are very persistent. And we will be heard, and we will deliver. But it's always about delivering value. So if the Treasury organization can prove that they can deliver value, they'll partner with every organization in time.
Yeah, I completely agree. Just to build on that, the Treasury is very much the internal bank of the company, right? And so if you think about your best bankers that you work with, they're generally going to be people that understand your industry, understand your company, and bring value to you. And when you're thinking of yourselves as Treasury professionals, you really have to bring value to the business partners that you work with throughout the company. I think sometimes Treasury gets very insulated, and therefore people don't know what you don't understand their business, and so therefore they're not really going to listen to you. But if you take the time to understand your business and understand others and bring solutions out to the business, it changes the dynamic a little bit, because you're no longer saying, hey, you're having a conversation that impacts me, I need a seat at the table. Because even if you ask for the seat at the table, people will barely give you the seat at the table. But if you're somebody that's helping them out and bringing solutions, then you don't have to ask for the seat at the table. They're bringing you in, because they know if you're not there, they're going to not make the right decision or not have all the information that they need to make that decision. It's very much be a consultative banker for your internal team and understanding business.
Okay. So questions for the room, and then we've got some great takeaways from these guys. What questions do we have? Let's get some hands up. Come on, there must be some. Please.
I'll throw one out on the geopolitical front. I've heard there might be some tariffs and other things going on, and supply chains and all that issues. And we know that cash is king. Cash has been way up over the last 4 years. So what are you guys missing in terms of where you can put money and make money? What's not there for you? Because I feel like, yield curve flat, total volatility, can't go out anywhere. What do you do?
Yeah. My thoughts on that are, you're going to have a challenging environment, right? So particularly if you have an environment where we have higher inflation due to tariffs, theoretically, if that happens, and you have slower growth, and so the question is, do you wind up in stagnation? And so what does that mean? It means different things, right? So I think one of the best things that you need to do is you need to look at your business and say, okay, what are my impacts? Am I going to be impacted from tariffs, and therefore I need to buy inventory now, and so therefore there's a cash demand, and what does that mean from a working capital perspective, and what's the cost of it? And then going back to the CFO and saying, listen, if we want to buy now and build our inventory against that, this is the cost, so this is the break-even point in doing that work. I think that's one way to address it. And then understanding, talking to the business line leaders, is there a demand issue here that we need to be aware of? Are we going to expect our receivables to spike, and what does that mean? So I think that's the other way. And then from a debt standpoint, which I've been giving some thought to, what does your debt stack look like, and do you want to change that? Do you want to use swaps? Do you want to use collars, things of that nature? There's not like one right outcome because nobody has the crystal ball. And so I think any solution is going to have pros and cons. And so what I just did in a recent work with my CFO is I said, listen, here are the different paths we can take, at least on the debt side, to figure out how we want to position ourselves. Here are the pros and cons. If you're worried about the downside risk, really, this is the right solution, right? If you want to push through the upside, that's the right solution. If you don't really care, then the middle solution works. But I think bringing that out is an important way to address it. But I don't think there's going to be a great solution, unfortunately, because anything that you do is going to have a risk.
Pharma is in the crosshairs. Republicans hate us, Democrats hate us. We have IRA, we have tariffs, we have tax. There's so many things against us, and we simply don't even know where we are in terms of tariffs. We have a manufacturing footprint outside of the U.S. We don't know how the tariffs are going to impact us. What we do know today is we have receivables and payables and inventory that we can optimize. So we need to focus on what we can control today. And when things are well defined, we will figure out how to proceed.
Not much to add. I'm in retail. So
We sell thongs.
we sell thongs.
From there.
So I think it's
Summa?
exactly what both Frank and Sandra said. It's being aware of what your pending risk is and over communicating. This is what this looks like. This is what we're up against. Making sure that the board and the leadership team are fully aware, and so that there are no surprises. But it's not quite clear. So what the organization wants is confidence that somebody's paying attention, that as things swing from left to right, we're focused on how we would need to pivot. And I think that's all, I don't want to say all we can do, but it's what our job entails, and it's a perfect time to really evaluate the importance of volatility and the importance of staying in tune with everything that's going on, so you aren't the reason for the surprise.
Time for one more? Where have we got? Daniel.
So obviously, successful career than that, you had to look at your other job. What would you tell yourself, hey, I should have done that?
I would have thrown away the journal entries much sooner.
So the question,
I
what
wouldn't have
would
waited
you
a
give,
decade.
what advice would you give to your younger self looking back now? We'll start with Summer. And that's it. And that was the end of her career. That's it.
I probably would have branched out of Treasury at some point so that I wasn't pegged into the Treasury box, because now I am in the Treasury box. And if I wanted to do something different, it's going to be very hard for me to get out of that Treasury box. I've been in Treasury for 24 years, and now everyone knows how old I am. Sometimes we have to step out of, I'm very comfortable in Treasury. I love my job. So I don't actually want to be a CFO anywhere, but if I had endeavored to do something else, that would have been something that I should have done earlier in my career. And I think the other thing, which is going to sound a little cheesy, is believe in myself. and eliminate the negative voices. I was once told, you can never be treasurer of a $90 billion company. I'm not sure what we're trading at today, but I think our market cap's a little over 90 billion. So there will always be people out there that will put you down, and you have to just learn to switch that off and move forward and believe in yourself.
I think probably when I think about it is, and I alluded to this earlier, is don't be so prescriptive about what you're going to do. Be open, listen to everything, take it all in. But when you make a decision, make sure it's the right decision, be methodical about it. It's okay to take a risk. Just if you're going to take a risk, say downside is this is my exit plan, upside is this is how I'm going to go forward. If it doesn't pan out, then I pivot, right? But having plan, but being open, I think is important. And I learned that later in life. I think it's a good lesson to learn when you're young.
You will also get to ask
I won't
the
read
questions
them to you.
actually when we're doing the
But I'll just hit
networking
the high
drinks and
reel.
everything else. We've got great
Visibility is your
takeaways
value,
from our
right?
panelists today.
People need to know
So we've done the questions
that
for
you
Summa.
exist, what you bring to
They're
the
yours.
table, what you're interested in. Relationships are your strongest currency. My stock just leveled up. I sat on a panel with these two. It's really important for you to connect beyond your circle of trust. Get out into a conversation. As we step into the networking session of this evening, talk to 3 people that you don't know. I'm volunteering to be one of them, even though I think you know everything that you need to know about me now. Bet on yourself. Frank said it, Sandra said it, like just, even if you don't think you're ready, take the chance. The only person that knows that you failed is you, and you will be able to figure out where your gaps are and fill them. And last but not least, Treasury is more than the job. It drives the strategy of the company. I think over the last 45 minutes, that's what you've heard, hopefully, from the 3 of us. And we have really big, important, visible jobs, and it's our job to ensure that the company is not running because we don't have any cash to do it.
Yeah. Treasury is a very small world.
Sandra.
Your reputation will precede you. Make those good relationships with those bankers, because those bankers can make or break your careers. My AT came to me through the banking relationship. So careers can be built on having that reputation and those relationships. And like I said before, take ownership of your career. You have to be proactive. No one's going to hand you a job on a platter that you really covet. I'm results focused, so I will always tell you that you have to focus on delivering value and showing how you're strategic and to justify why we exist, really, in an organization, especially many of us are going through cost cutting. Be open to change. Change is constant, and if we don't embrace it, we're just going to fail, honestly. And get uncomfortable, and frankly, this was really uncomfortable for me, so this was me getting uncomfortable sitting here. But that's how we grow.
Right.
I think the biggest thing I would say to take away from these bullets, they tie into one. Be a differentiator, right? Differentiate your brand, whatever your personal brand is. So how do you do that? A couple bullets here. One, think like an owner. A lot of people worry about them, and they don't worry about the broader company. If you want to differentiate yourself to the C-suite, think that you're thinking globally and not just what's good for you, what's good for everyone. Very few people do that. And so if you do that, it will be rewarded. I promise you that. Lifelong learning, commitment to always wanting to know what's going on, be able to bring new ideas to the table. Value personal connections. We're in a digital world that drives me crazy. Don't get me wrong. I love technology. But people use that as a way to put up a shield and not interact with people. Careers are built on deep personal relationships, and whether it be bankers, events like this, but you don't have to see everybody face to face all the time. Believe me, I don't want to see everybody. I like my personal space sometimes, but take the time to go out, challenge yourself. I'm going to do one external networking event a month, make connections, You will differentiate yourself. Most people do not do that. And make sure that you're positioned for opportunity. So if there's something that you want to do, ask for it. Say, I want to do this. Whether it's ask Mike, Joe, your boss, whoever, what is missing from my resume and what do I need to do to get to that next level? Because people just won't ask, right? They'll assume, oh, I'm perfect, right? Be vulnerable. Say, you know what? I have things I could work on, right? You're looking at my resume, what am I missing? And let somebody, and even if you don't like the answer, take the feedback, process it, and then move forward. Because if somebody is going to be open and honest with you, that's great, because most people aren't. And so getting that candid feedback is going to help you grow.
Cool. So, my tips here. You've got here these relationships. You've just seen 3 amazing treasurers talking through the evening. When you go out there, make sure, exactly as Summer said, you speak to 3 people you don't know. Because otherwise, why did you bother to come here today? You've made the effort. It's not easy. You've done a long day at work. You think, oh, God, yeah, it would be much easier just to get on the subway and head home. You've made the effort to do it. Give it before you get. Now, that actually came out from Nicole, wherever Nicole is at the back. She was amazing. New York Cash Exchange. She is lovely. Well, her head is already big enough now. Don't want any more, okay? Basically, I put my hand up and I said, look, I noticed you're doing some sessions. Can I help? Can I just do that? Next thing I know, I'm then speaking again later this year. But then she was the one that actually said, why don't you apply for CTP credits for your sessions? These are educational. I was like, really? They'll do it? Yeah. Now, all of our live sessions, but that came from me putting my hand up. And also, I know everyone's seen a lot of these sessions. I've done this. I did this back in Chicago a few years ago. I don't enjoy public speaking. Weird. I don't enjoy it, but I know to grow my business and to get out with you guys, I have to do it. Get out of my own way, get out of my comfort zone. And that's where the visibility pays off. And you might have seen some of the posts I'm doing, a bit on LinkedIn and everything else. This latest one, lovely rugby picture, thank you for the comments. But the weird thing is, I don't do my personal life on there. I don't even do Facebook. But the fact is, we now do a newsletter every Tuesday and then do a comment video on it. It's now taking off. Now, all of you guys might not say, well, actually, I'm a treasurer. I shouldn't be on LinkedIn going on about this. This is the other one. Sharing your wins isn't bragging. So when I did the session with Catherine Grant Alston or whatever, with New York Cash Exchange, we asked who had put one of their achievements or one of the bits that they'd saved. The Treasury professionals are on the call. 65% said they hadn't put one achievement on their LinkedIn profile in a year. What? Like, guys, you do hard jobs. You just talked about geopolitical. You're doing all this. You're working hard. Get some credit for it. It doesn't have to be confidential company information. It can be, hey, this is what I achieved this week. So stick it in your diary for Friday. Just take 5 minutes over a coffee and make a note of what was your one win of the week. And do it every week. Then you'll have 52 wins for the year. If you're not getting 52 wins, call me. Because that's what we do. And then final bits, again, that's tracking your achievements. I want you guys to put your hands together in a moment, wait for it, and then do take 5-10 minutes. Because we've got some lovely sponsors who have paid for the drinks. You've got to make the most of the opportunity. If you don't, just go on the escalator. It's up to you. It's your choice. There you go. Big hand together. And as we say, there's free booze now, so go.